Good evening, everyone, and a very warm welcome to another exciting and inspiring edition of the Caribbean Association of Principals of Secondary Schools, CAPS, Thoughtful Thursday. This is season 3, session 11. I am Sonia Mehes Prasad, principal of the Lakshmi Girls Hindu College in St. Augustine, Trinidad and Tobago, and also president of the Association of Principals of Assisted Secondary Schools, APAS. Over the last 3 seasons, you have had the opportunity to interact with educators throughout the Caribbean, as well as with presenters who have inspired us to reflect and retool, and who have reignited our passion for this noble profession that we are all very fortunate to be part of. During the course of these many interactions over the last year, we have also learned about the cultures of different territories that participated in our Thoughtful Thursday sessions. We have enjoyed the John Canoe dances, we have enjoyed the architecture and the scenic seaside location of various territories during the course of these 3 seasons. We have been exposed to different flora and fauna and fruits. And beyond that, we have also come to appreciate the rich cultural diversities and commonalities which we have all been part of during this our journey towards our virtual conference from July 26 this year. What it has shown us is that as a Caribbean people, we form a very united front in terms of what we share in common, and even the type of cultural and social engagement that we expose our students to in our various schools in various territories. Indeed, CAPS Thoughtful Thursday is a very important aspect of Caribbean cultural integration. So that being said, this evening's session focuses on this aspect of our Thoughtful Thursday experience. We are looking at the theme of cultural immersion, the CAPS experience. In addition to that, we have a very special Father's Day segment later in our program, where 2 lucky male participants will be rewarded with a prize voucher, which is a 50% discount for our upcoming virtual conference. In order to participate in this, members, male participants, you are asked to enter M, the letter M, in front of your names. Unfortunately, executive members of CAPS and our APS TT members are excluded from this. We are catering for all the other male participants. So just remember, enter the letter M in front of your name so that we could select for our random draw coming up later in this program. This will be conducted with the assistance of our technical team, the engine behind Thoughtful Thursday, Restore a Sense of ICANN, RSC. This evening, I have the privilege to be co-moderating with Mr. Joseph Maynard, to whom I now hand over for his opening words and introductions. Joseph?
Okay, thank you very much, Sonia. It is indeed a great pleasure to be with you again this evening, and I certainly look forward to hosting the program with Sonia. We've had some brief talks during the week, and I really have anticipated this evening very, very much. My name is Joseph Maynard. As I said, I'm the principal of Combermere School in Barbados, and certainly we have a lot to be thankful for. We're really very happy. I would want to say that I got some very good news for our school quite recently when a number of our students made the merit list for the Caribbean in the various CXC, CSEC, and CAPE subjects. So I really have been very happy about that. And I just wanted to share that with you because I recognize in all of the territories, there were students who did exceptionally well. So we are among very good and very capable students indeed. This evening, we, as my co-host would have mentioned, we are going to go over to our breakout rooms where we are going to look at the topic, how has the CAPS Thoughtful Thursday experience impacted on your cultural immersion? I'll just read that again. How has the CAPS Thoughtful Thursday experience impacted on your cultural immersion? That is our topic for this evening. And so we will go over to our breakout groups at this time, and we would want to ask everyone to be very involved in the discussion. Thank you.
Okay. Joseph, just unmute, please. You know, we all do this. We're not hearing you.
Okay, I was really saying that we had a really wonderful time in breakout room 6, where we shared a number of ideas. One of the things that was said is that the Thoughtful Thursday has allowed us to showcase our culture in various ways. We have the moment of movement, and you know, the reality is that we all enjoyed that. Another thought that was shared, I was mentioning that when we had one of the programs in the early seasons, there was the one with the fruit, and it was amazing how we all knew the fruit, but by different names. And you know, that was very interesting indeed. I don't know, there were so many things that came up, but yeah. I just wanted to ask you, Sonia, how was it in your breakout room?
Well, you know, it's interesting you talk about the fruits because Cindy Ramnarayan, our last speaker at the breakout room, spoke about the fruits and how much he thoroughly enjoyed that, you know, learning about different names for these things that we have in the Caribbean. And she found that memorable, but she also spoke about that out of all these differences, we have that unity. We have so many similarities. Andre Macaulay from Dominica talk about how he enjoyed the moment of movement, the exposure to the different music and art forms from the different territories, and the opportunity to interact with colleagues and to learn about what different islands, different territories are doing as far as education is concerned. But one of the strands that run through every single contribution in my breakout room was the fact that despite the differences, we share so many similarities as educators.
Yes.
And one of the, Crystal from Providence in Trinidad, she talked about, she had learned so much about different cultures that she was able to apply in her own school context. You know, she said that things in our context that we do things a certain way, but there are other ways to do these things that might be even better, that she learned through getting involved in, you know, this whole immersion with Thoughtful Thursday. So it was really rich and interesting, Sharon, Joseph. I think it was a really enjoyable breakout session.
And perhaps we can close on that thought. One contribution that was made was, the more we think we are different, the more we are similar. I think that's a good way to really round off, or
that's a perfect way to round that off.
Perfect way to round it off. And we appreciate all of the contributions that were made in the breakout room. And at this time, we want to move on to our next area, and I'm going to hand over to Sonia at this time as she introduces the presidential thought and speaker.
Thank you very much, Joseph. Just a quick reminder for participants, our male participants, to remember to put the letter M in front of your name for our prize draw that is coming up later on in our program, okay? It is now my pleasure to introduce our presidential thought, and this evening's presidential thought is being delivered by Mr. Linvern Wright, Mr. Wright is the president of the Jamaica Association of Principals of Secondary Schools, JAPS, where he previously served as vice president and public relations officer. He has also served over 29 years in education, having studied English, philosophy, and linguistics at UWI Mona and curriculum studies at the University of Alberta. Mr. Wright has worked as a principal for 15 years and presently serves at his alma mater, William Knibb Memorial High, where he proudly states Usain Bolt attended. Presently, he also serves as assistant chief for CXC English B. Mr. Wright is an unapologetic individual as far as the defense of social justice and teaching values such as care and responsibilities to generations of students. So we now hand over to Mr. Wright for our presidential thought.
Hi, good evening, colleagues. Greetings from Jamaica. What are some of the benefits of social and cultural engagement in education? This is a critical issue that I think many of us as principals have grappled with, that we have had to deal with. And in observing our Caribbean societies, I think we'll look at how many of these things, or the lack of these things, social and cultural engagement, really may be lacking in our schools. And I think it's one of those things that as principals, as educators, we ought to pay significant attention to. During my schooling years, especially when I was being trained to become a teacher, I had a professor who, one of the things that he usually says to us is that the teacher is supposed to be that agent of transformation when society is in a state of stasis, when things are not going well and the values are not moving in the way they ought to. Equally, he felt that the teacher was supposed to be that stabilizing force whenever it is that society was in too much of a revolutionary state, to the extent that whatever was happening in society was being threatened. And one of the things I feel that as principals, we have the work to get done is to ensure that the way our school is organized, we have values and social norms as a big part of how we help our kids to become better citizens, not just of the Caribbean, but of the world. We've got to ensure that we organize our teachers around being exemplary, because too much of what we do in our schools is more about precept than example. And many of you know that old adage that example is better than precept. We have got to look at our Caribbean society, and we know that there are so many things about the Caribbean society that we have an issue with. When you look at the fact that for many of us, what we worry about most is when we're getting into our houses, whether or not something is going to happen to us. We are good, I think, maybe not best yet, at educating our children so that they can pass their exit examinations. What really is failing us is the fact that many of our kids are missing that essential ingredient of social, cultural, and social engagement. And when we look at the kinds of programs that we have in our schools, our programs for cultural and social engagement have got to be more than just events. They have got to be programs that are built over time to maybe culminate in some kind of activity that is going to celebrate the culture of the Caribbean, or to help them to understand what social engagement, what responsible social engagement, what social responsibility is. Those are the kinds of things that I think we need to look at. And I think we need to look at our teachers and our guidance counselors and those members of our staff, even ourselves, who are responsible for organizing for values, for organizing for social engagement, for organizing for cultural engagement, that we ensure that these things are not just about tokenism. So it can't just be about Black History Month or Caribbean Day or Jamaica Day or any kind of day. It has got to be that we organize school in such a way that the culture is at the front and center, because culture is where our kids get their confidence from. When they know that they are from somewhere, the United States will not be as appealing in how in the way things are happening, and we get disgusted by how many of our kids just take what is happening in the United States as a big thing. It's critical, therefore, that as educators, we pay attention to these functions of education and that we engage our students in social and cultural values, important to the survival of our regional systems and our world. I want to thank you very much for listening to me. I really hope that this is something that is having you think about how we do what we have to do. Really just meant to just, pick your mind and hope that something will come of this kind of engagement. I want to thank you all very much and have a good evening. Blessings.
We want to thank you as well, Mr. Wright, for your contribution this evening in the presidential thought. Very good ideas that you've put before us, introduced us to. And we want to thank you. Now we come to the point where we are going to be doing a bit of motion. We want to introduce at this time Mr. Philip Kalu, and I just want to say something briefly. Mr. Philip Kalu will be taking us through an exercise from martial arts, which entails the horse stance and punching exercises aimed at invigorating our entire body. That's a mouthful. And now we hand over to Mr. Kalu.
Good evening, everyone. Hope you're having a wonderful time in your webinar. Today, we're going to take an exercise from the martial arts. We're going to use the horse stance and do a punching energy exercise. It will invigorate your whole system and also have to strengthen your body. Move your legs apart about 1.5 times the width of your shoulders or twice the width of your shoulders. Bend your knees. This is the horse stance. The toes are pointing out 45 degrees. The knees are bent. The tension on the knees is outwards. Good. Learn to make a fist. Folding your fingers from your little finger to your thumb. The thumb is over the first 2 fingers. Put your left hand out, right hand by the wrist. Open your hand as if you're grabbing something and inhale. Right hand, exhale and punch. Or chest tight. Take the right hand, grab and inhale. Left hand, exhale and punch. Let's do it a few times. The left hand, grab, inhale. Right hand, exhale. Inhale through your nostrils, exhale through your mouth. Grab, inhale. Exhale. Grab, inhale. Exhale. Grab, inhale. And this time you punch to the side. Punch to your left side. Exhale. Grab, inhale. Look to the right side. Punch. Exhale. Grab, inhale. Look to the left. Exhale. Grab, inhale. Look to the right side. Exhale. Grab, inhale. Now both hands go to punch together. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Stand up. Your legs will be burning a little. That's okay. That burning in the legs, that helps the energy to raise through the entire body. Let's finish off. Inhaling, bringing the hands up to the face. Feel the energy in the hands. Exhale, press the hands down. Bend your knees slightly. Inhale, the hands up to the face. Exhale, press down. The fingers turn inwards to each other. Face your hands to the sides and relax. Now, when I say relax, really just stand still and relax for a few seconds. You feel the blood circulating through your body. You feel that energy circulating through your body. So just be still for a little while. Feel that energy circulating. Do some slow, deep breathing. Inhaling, exhaling, inhaling through your nostrils, exhaling. One more time. Inhaling, exhaling. Thank you. That's it for today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Philip Kalu, for that very invigorating and powerful routine, the horse stance. It's always a favorite with all of us. So at this point, Joseph, we are going to our feature presentation on the theme of cultural immersion, the CAPS experience.
Yes.
So it's my pleasure, first of all, to introduce one of our presenters, and she is Miss Nadine A. Malloy, who is presently the principal of the prestigious Arden High School, which is known as a performing arts high school, which is located in Kingston, Jamaica. She has been principal there since 2012. She's also a trained school inspector. A two-time graduate of the University of the West Indies Mona campus, Ms. Molloy also has additional graduate qualifications from Andrews University, Michigan in secondary education administration, and she's also a trained teacher librarian. Ms. Molloy has served for 2 terms as president of the Jamaican Association of Principals of Secondary Schools, JAPS, and she also served the Jamaica Teachers Association, JTA, as its president in 2010 to 2011. Ms. Molloy continues to be very much excited by the possibilities for education in Jamaica, which she believes is on an upward trajectory. She believes that the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic will only serve to fuel more significant and needed changes in education. So we look forward to her presentation. Joseph, I hand over to you.
Thank you very much, Sonia. We want to introduce our second participant this afternoon, Miss Anonia Hunter-Jones. Ms. Hunter-Jones is a principal at the Marcus Garvey Technical High School, St. Anne's Bay, Jamaica, since 2018. Ms. Hunter-Jones is leading the transformation of the St. Anne's Bay-based institution, named in honor of the country's first national hero. She's a trained school inspector, just like Ms. Molloy, and she is an assistant public relations officer with the Jamaican Association of Public Secondary Schools, JAPS. Now, in a minute, we are going to introduce both of our presenters, but we want very briefly to share a voice note with you as our listeners. And this is a brief introduction to the topic by Reverend Claude Ellis, the principal of Pembroke Hall High School. So at this time, we just want you to listen, please, to this voice note, and then we will go into the presentation itself.
I would agree that there is a significant benefit to having culture and social exchange in schools. As a manager myself, it is kind of interesting that even within my own culture here in Jamaica, there are subcultures. And when you sit to talk with principals from across the other side of the fence and in other areas of the island, you recognize that there are things that you are doing that could be done differently. And some things that are glaring, you did not see because someone else saw it from a different set of lenses, because of the subculture in their own space. Now, can you imagine when you have this kind of experience from persons not necessarily in your geographical area, not on your island, but from different territories? I suspect that the experience would be even more rich, and the learning that you would from other practitioners would be even more significant. So I believe it is something that is necessary. And when you look at even the pandemic now and how it has exposed education, and even how we treat with one another from different sides of the Caribbean, it is even a greater task for us to really position ourselves in a way where there can be more dialogue and more what you would say now, of the same kind of workshop that you are having now, where practitioners from right across the hemisphere here are able to sit and talk and dialogue and to share best practices and to see how it is we can improve each other.
Thank you very much for that introduction. And hey, it's just an awesome thing to be a presenter at a CAPS Thoughtful Thursday. My co-presenter, Aniona Hunter, we met 20 years, just about 20 years ago when I was a young principal and she was even a younger teacher. And we kind of created some storms over at Buff Bay High School where some of you might have met me at that time. Now, Anne is kind of new to the principalship in a sense, But as I greet you this evening, I greet you saying to you that my first CAPS was in 2001. That was a long time ago in Belize. Now, we want to thank Reverend Ellis, Claude Ellis, for his really very thoughtful introduction. As I listened to it again, it really had me thinking. What are the educational benefits of culture and social engagement for holistic development in our schools, in our countries, and across the region? Anne, you want to tell us what you think culture is? How do you define culture?
Thank you so much for the invitation to always have a good conversation with you. I know we get to have it along with colleagues across the Caribbean. So I'm really looking forward to, especially those teachers of social studies. Please check me if I'm incorrect and add your own definitions to the chat. To me, when I think about culture, I'm going to stick with the grade 3 definition, the way of life of a people, those things that define ideas that are acceptable and cultural norms. It helps persons to, in very layman's term, describe those things that fit and are considered okay, acceptable, and those things that are not. It's those set of characteristics, whether it is the food, the music, general lifestyle, that are common among a particular group of people. So those concepts come to my mind when I think about culture. I'm not sure about the audience. It would be interesting to hear what they drop in the chat as their definition of culture. And
I'm sure we're going to be seeing stuff coming into the chat. But let's look a little bit about at how that happens in our schools, how it plays out in our schools. Now, I'm in a school where the students are just so Jamaican and so into expressing themselves, whether it is through the performing arts, whether it is through some of our community service activities. It's just always a buzz of activities of students just expressing themselves, saying who they are. They create their own clubs. They just do so many awesome things. We see our prefects taking on the role of a prefect and making it into something totally different. We see, I like to call my school Party Central, because we work very hard, but we play very hard. We come together a lot to have conversations, to just have fun, to celebrate who we are and to celebrate our successes and what we have done. And what we have seen that do for our school, it creates a kind of climate where every student finds a place in school. And even now during the pandemic, we're seeing how some students are struggling because they don't have that kind of interaction. As much as we're doing well in the virtual space, they're not having that kind of interaction that, you know, it really pulls us together. I like to fondly call us as Starry Nights, you know, a Christmas pageant that feels like you are at a top of the line performance, you know, that sort of a thing where the students are actually, you know, expressing themselves, who they are in that Jamaicanness, that Jamaican voice. The teachers who are actors and actresses and playwrights in their own right. We have students who are moving on, and it's just not at my school. When I speak, I'm speaking with the knowledge that it happens in many other schools across the country. So there is that energy. Absolutely. And there's that vibe that just pulls us all together. And at the end of the day, we are proud to be who we are and what we do. I don't know, you are at Marcus Garvey Technical High School that carries the name of one of our national heroes. And, you know, Anne, if I may share this, I remember as a young teacher, I remember you in the Christmas pageant, blowing the recorder with the students, that was playing the recorder with the students. That was like awesome. What can you add to that conversation? And we invite you to put in the chat what is happening in your schools and how you're seeing that, you know, culture just pulling us all together, who you are, your Jamaican smaddiness, as we would say, the brand that makes you St. Lucia, the brand that makes you Grenada, the brand that makes you Trinidad. Let's talk a little bit more about that, Anne.
As you talk about Buff Bay High, it brings back mixed memories. Now, I don't know about our audience, but I do know that while we had some good times with the Fifi the recorder, as some parents would have called it. I remember when we were looking at music and the traditional folk forms, and I don't know, colleagues, what got into my head, but I decided that we were going to do drumming. Some persons were super excited. They got particularly excited. And I created such a storm on the school campus. And in my youthful exuberance, I totally forgot that drumming made a lot of people nervous. And I remember them going to Miss Malloy and saying, Principal Malloy, Miss Hunt are going to call down spirits in the school because she's drumming up. And then poor me didn't know that a child who was doing the key drumming was actually a child that attended a church that was a revival church, and it was associated with African traditional religions. And poor I was just thinking rhythm, and I was thinking rhyme, and I was thinking all of those things, and totally forgot that there are feelings that come with culture, and that it is very mixed. And I lacked the sensitivity from just the lack of experience in that moment to understand that it genuinely made people nervous to have drumming in the school done in that way, because they associated it with these traditional folk forms that were not Christian, and I was calling down spirits in the school. Luckily for me, I had a principal who was able to translate all of that, because it sounded like stupid gibberish in my head as a teacher. And then I had to struggle with feeling like I could not express myself and explore my Jamaicanness in this space called school. And how was I going to straddle that? Leapfrog now to being principal of Marcus Garvey, when we had issues with behavior, we use culture to do that. And so we converted lunchtime into a space where children could do drumming and dance and karaoke and art and domino competitions. And we cut suspensions from 374 2 years prior down to 0 since 2019. So I am able to see how it can be a conversation that some people don't want to have, but I do think we need to have it if we're going to look at our whole national culture or school culture. And then how do we step on somebody else's shores when they're having their drumming and not be like, oh my God, they're calling, do I stay in this space? So it's rich conversation.
Yes, and as you mentioned the national stage and stepping on someone else's shores, I want to look a little bit and the rest of us at our cultural creatives that we have right across the region. They're everywhere. Yes. They're right here in Jamaica. You know, I mentioned the brands already. These persons who have managed to capture the imagination of all of us here at home, all of us in the region, and they have gone ahead and captured the imagination of the world as well. That translates also into some sort of economic growth and economic development for us, which of course, I don't know if we're taking the kind of advantage of that we should. But I'd like to hear what you think about the role that our cultural creatives who emanate from our schools and the programs that we have in our schools, what role do you see them playing in bringing us together as a region?
Wouldn't it be interesting if when children were having career education, that we actually spoke to the economic benefits of being a dancer, calypso, soca, or food, or artwork, or fashion, all those things that make us Caribbean people, and the ways in which we can blend that in the 21st century. And that's why COVID, oh my, we've had to get so creative with acknowledging the world of social media, the economic benefits, versus with Beenie Man and Bounty Killer, and how it grows the largest listenership, viewership for this online platform. Those were Caribbean nationals that were looking at music, and they were able to make, like Beyonce, the world stop in a very real way. How about if we combine that with the traditional academic and look at it as a legitimate smarts? Because that's a challenge that I have, especially at an institution like Marcus Garvey. Parents were like, what are you going to do with dance? Where is art going to carry you? You need a real job. I don't know if persons on this platform have ever heard that when you have a conversation with a talented student and the parent is like, you need a real job. Where are you going to go with that? And so the idea of cultural creatives as being an economic avenue for personal development, national development, and then regional development is something that I'd love to see us as educators really push with the same kind of passion as we're pushing technology and digital literacy? How about cultural literacies as a real thing?
The pandemic has taught us that, you know, the scores are great, but the individual, who you are, that slice of the Caribbean that we experience, that slice of the individual territories that we experience when we travel abroad. I've been blessed to do a few countries, and I have been somewhere, and someone, I remember in South Africa, a gentleman pointing to my lapel pin, which was a Jamaican flag, to say Jamaica stood with us when we were going through apartheid. You know, I was in the same South African trip where this lady wanted to claim Bob Marley as an African born in Africa. A friend of mine called me mad one day. There were persons in New York claiming Marcus Garvey as being born in New York. She was actually saying where she find that place. And I'm sure the rest of you, as you're typing into your chat, you know, there's Trinidad in, you have Carnival that, you know, it's just world renowned. People travel to Trinidad every year for Carnival. I go to Barbados for Crop Over. And forgive me if I don't remember everything. I like to think of myself as a Caribbean person, but yes. So culture, social engagement, how does it bring us together? And if I'm permitted, one last question of the young teacher, since I'm a young principal, since I'm an old principal now, and you've just come into CAPS, what do you expect our cultural connections and social engagements to do for you as a principal over the next few years? And then we close there.
I love being me. I love being Jamaican. I love identifying with the philosophy of Marcus Garvey and feel very blessed and privileged to learn at the feet of my colleagues and to share all of that. It can be lonely sometimes. And I'd love to be able to feel as though I'm a part of a network of school leaders that recognize that we do have a number of differences, but there's so much more that makes us similar. I'd love to feel as though those thoughts and ideas, those ways of thinking that I experience here can be shared, and that I have access to the various ways of thinking and knowing in other countries and by other professionals. So I am looking for social engagement.
The cameras have come on for our moderators. It means that our time is up. We could continue this conversation forever. And thank you so much for listening.
Okay. We want to thank our two presenters as well, Ms. Malloy and Ms. Jones. We want to thank you ladies for a very thought-provoking discussion. We really appreciated everything that was said. And I agree with you that we could really go on and talk about this for a long time. Right, Sonia?
I agree, and I like the different aspects of culture. Culture as identity, culture as positioning us when we go out there in the wider world, the economic aspect of culture, and how culture shouldn't just be a side dish. Culture, as somebody put on the chat, is our soul. It is who we are, and it resonates for us as Caribbean people. And I'm looking at these two wonderful presenters, and I'm seeing the passion and how culture impacts in their schools. And I just wanted to ask one question. How have you found ways to bring your parents on board? Because I know, Ms. Molloy, your school has a reputation for performing arts as well. And Ms. Jones, your school is named after a cultural hero and icon. So if we could just share that, quickly, like, how have you brought people on board with recognizing culture as not just a side dish, but who we are?
It's built into the ethos of the school. And, and you're at Marcus Garvey Technical High School, and Arden takes home the Marcus Garvey's trophy for performance, for excellence in the JCDC performance every year. And, part of why we're able to do it is because of the strong parental support. I think it is something that has become a part of the tradition of Arden. It's about, I was reading something recently where it says that, for you to have strong schools, it means that you have to build the traditions. And I think that tradition of Arden students being able to express themselves in so many different ways, not just in the performing arts. We're talking about that a lot because, people recognize it as being one of the things that we use to mark culture. But, we have that tradition that tradition of excellence, that tradition of self-actualizing, and the fact that as a student, your voice must be heard. As a teacher, you must grow and your voice must be heard.
I like that, Joseph. That voice must be heard. It reminds me of a presenter
Yes.
we had, I think the first season, who's talk about the culture of talking back. When in the Caribbean people say don't answer back, and she said, no, that's part of our culture, it's part of who we are.
Yes.
Talk
Yes.
back. Doesn't mean that you're being rude or
Mhm.
out of place. And I'm so happy that you all empower young people that when you're not insecure as educators, when young people
Mhm.
express themselves in these
Mhm.
ways. And I think we could all learn from that. Joseph, I don't know, what are your thoughts on those perspectives?
I agree fully. There's so much that we can say, quite honestly, that
Yeah.
it is, it is amazing. But I really appreciate the
Yeah.
contributions that have been made by our two presenters tonight. And I'm sure this discussion will go on even after our
Yes.
program is finished, right? Because this is so very important. And as we were saying in our breakout rooms, there are so many different aspects to this whole matter of culture, the cultural impact, and so in relation to the Caribbean. And some of the things that were said reminded me of what was discussed in our breakout room, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. So we really do thank you, ma'am, for your presentation. Appreciated it very much. And as I said to Sonia, we want to make sure that we keep on time.
Yes.
For our producers, come on to the screen and remind us of something, right? So at this time, I
Yes.
want to hand over to Sonia as she brings a little surprise for us to be involved in. Sonia.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much, ladies, as well. So now we come to this moment of excitement where we have the spinning of the wheel, and we are going to select two very lucky male participants who will be given a discounted voucher for our CAPS virtual conference from the 26th of July to the 31st of July. And a reminder as well that the month of June is when you get your early bird special. The fees for the month of June for our conference is $175 US instead of 200. So take advantage of that. I think it should be placed up on the chat at some point where participants, you can click, you register, you get your information as well. So, we are looking at Father's Day and honoring the male participants and especially male educators, because I mean, Joseph, you would know in a profession where women are in the majority, the male educators and administrators, they really help to diversify the education workforce. And, you all make a significant impact as role models for our children. So that we can never repay you all for that that contribution that you make to the education system. But we are going to have a little special this evening. So if I could just hand over to the technical team, we are going to do two draws. And as I said, it's a 50% discount voucher for our CAPS conference. So I could be guided as to how we are going to spend this, if the technical team could advise.
Sure, you just tell us when to spin and we'll go with the first spin. So say 3, 2, 1, spin.
All right, so let's have a drum roll. All right, 3, 2, 1. Joseph, I feel like Pat Sajak and Vanna White here, okay? It is so
The winner is
exciting.
Claude.
Oh, look at that, Reverend Claude Ellis, who we had earlier on with a voice note. Congratulations.
Yes, very good.
Yeah, very good. Excellent. So we take note of this name as well. All right. Joseph, do you want to do the countdown for the next spin?
Yes, we will do the countdown at this time. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's my buddy
Michael
there.
Boyce.
Oh, that's your buddy. All
That's
right.
my buddy there.
So we are taking note of Mr. Michael Boyce. Congratulations. You are one of our winners this evening for
Congratulations,
our,
Michael. And I'm
our
sure you're going to
Father's
share that with
Day.
me. I'm sure you're going to share that with me.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, it was
So
really good.
Joseph, yes.
Yes, it was really good being involved in this little gift for the fathers. And I just want to say thanks to everyone for being involved with the program this evening. I really enjoyed it, and especially sharing the role with Sonia. It was really a pleasure, ma'am, to share this with you. And you know, I look forward in the future because, as I said, I'm really very mad about Thoughtful Thursday. You know, whenever I hear about Thoughtful Thursday, I always will say I will be there. I will commit myself to that. At this time, we want to draw to the attention of the participants the evaluation and registration in the chat. Please pay attention there because we want to get some feedback from you as to how things have gone, and you know, be a part of everything. Please, let's contribute, and so that the programs can be a success now and in the future. And I certainly look forward to the conference in Trinidad in just a little while, the online conference. I will hand over at this time now to Sonia for her last words. Sonia.
Thank you very much, Joseph. And it has been such an absolute pleasure co-hosting with you. As I said at the beginning, this is my first experience, you know, co-moderating with a male moderator. And, you know, it adds that extra, you know, flair to the entire thing. And I really do appreciate, you know, your calm and, you know, that knowledge that you bring to this entire process. So it was a great opportunity to, you know, spend some time this evening with you. So thank you very much,
Sonia,
for that
appreciate
excellent job.
Okay.
And I also want to thank everyone, all the presenters. I think the theme of cultural immersion was explored in many dimensions here this evening. Mr. Linvern Wright spoke about, you know, the cultural capital of our students and the role of the education system as far as that is concerned. And our two dynamic presenters as well, Ms. Molloy and Ms. Jones, really brought home to us, you know, how a school could actually enhance that cultural identity of our students. It's a conversation, as Joseph said, we will continue way after we finish this evening. So it was a really, you know, rich sharing and insightful presentation. Mr. Kalu, as usual, a fantastic job with that moment of movement. We look forward to those sessions every single week. So a reminder again, please take the survey and also remember to register early during this month for our upcoming conference from the 26th of July to the 31st of July. Make sure that you are there, you are part of this very, very exciting virtual conference. We are on this trajectory for our virtual conference, as we have been saying all evening. And next week, we have a very interesting and exciting presentation planned. And we are looking at the theme of professional development. And our presenter will be Mrs. Diani Whiskey John, someone who had done a very successful presentation earlier on in our Thoughtful Thursday session. So we do look forward to her presentation on professional development next week, Thursday. So as I end, I want to wish all of you a very lovely good night and, you know, safe week ahead as we close off this week. And to all our male participants, happy Father's Day. We wish you a very enjoyable and fulfilling weekend, and happy Father's Day on Sunday as well. Thank you everyone for being here this evening. We look forward to seeing all of you next week as well. Good night, everyone.
Good night to everyone as well.
So you clear your schedule from the 26th to the 31st July, yes?
26th to 31st of July. What's so special about that time, Linda? The way this COVID thing going, that doesn't even look like vacation, huh?
Girl, that is CAPS conference time. It's true, you've never been to one.
Okay. Yes, we'll catch up. Oh, that is what she always going to all over the region. I no remember.
CAPS Conference 2021.
We are breaking barriers. Are you transitioning with us?
How? What do we do?
Transitioning to leadership through professional development.
Through the voice of youth.
Through technology and innovation.
Through health and wellness.
Through stakeholders and community involvement.
Through the arts and culture.
Through inclusivity and diversity.
Transitioning to the future of Caribbean education.
Join us.
And let's blaze the trail to CAPS Virtual Conference 2021. We got this. See you there.
Caribbean Association of Principals of Secondary Schools is breaking barriers and going beyond the norm, July 26th to 31st. We invite you to be a part of this pioneering virtual conference, guaranteed to renew your commitment as administrators of excellence through the sharing of ideas in innovation and technology. The ultimate Caribbean unifying experience. CAPS Virtual Conference July 2021. Creating opportunities to collaborate, define our future, and transition beyond the norm. Be a part of the journey.
CAPS Virtual Conference 2021, Blazing the Trail.